Camerata? Present. Mr. Corrin? Present. Mr. D'Angelo? Present. Mr. Tucker?
Present.
Present. Mr. Colometto is absent. First matter before the board is application A1214. This is the application of Kim Falzoni, trustee of 1 Lawrence Road, Realty Trust, 9111 Avola Oaks, Wilmington, Mass., requesting minimum lot size and frontage and all setback dimensional regulations to enable the appellant to have the structure located on Lot 13 at 1 Bay Road, Revere, Mass., fully and completely conform to all said regulations. We have an email communication with legal counsel for the appellant suggesting that this matter be continued until next month's meeting, which is Wednesday, November 28th. The question will come on continuing this to November 28th at 4 p.m.
Roll call.
This is a motion to continue this matter to November 28th. Mr. Bacilli? Yes. Yes. Mr. Camerata?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Corrin? Yes. Mr. D'Angelo? Yes. Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Colometto is absent. This matter is continued. The next matter before the board is application A1215. This is the application of Maria Conlon, 9698 Florence Ave, Revere, requesting side and front yard setback variances to enable the appellant to construct a 19-foot by 24-foot enclosed garage carport on Lot 87 and Part 86 Florence Avenue at 9698 Florence Avenue, Revere. This matter was continued from the meeting of 9/26/12.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon, honorable members. James Cipolletta, 385 Broadway, Revere, on behalf of Mrs. Conlon. Mr. Chairman, I take notice that there is less than a full board today, and it is. Okay. Oh, yes, there are 5. Thank you. Okay, then this is a matter that that was continued from the last meeting to make a presentation to the full board, which we do have. And as the chairman may remember, and the members who sat on this, the Board of Appeals had granted Ms. Conlon a variance to allow her to construct a carport and put in the conditions of the variance that it would not be enclosed. She petitioned the Board of Appeals later to remove that condition and allow her to have the opportunity to enclose the carport. That was denied. We petitioned the planning board on a repetition with a different structure and a different set of plans which showed some windows and some architectural elements which takes away that sheer monolithic looking appearance of the building, which seemed to have been a concern that had been floated during the hearing, the second public hearing. Mrs. Conlon now has before the board an application to allow her to utilize the most recent plan, which is on file with the Board of Appeals and is dated May 16, 2012, showing different elevations, different architectural renderings and elements, which would be not only more attractive to the neighborhood, but would be more in keeping with the purpose and intent not only of the zoning ordinance, but also of the first variance that the Board of Appeals had allowed her. We would suggest, Mr. Chairman and members, that the new plan, which is the subject of this hearing, is in conformity with the neighborhood, is in harmony with the surroundings, would not be detrimental to any of the abutter or the abutters to the abutters. There are members of the neighborhood who have expressed their support. I have spoken also with the ward counselor. I believe he is here as well. And if the chair would grant the opportunity for those who would be able to speak in favor on behalf of Mrs. Conlon, they are here in the audience. If a member has a question with regard to the application, I'd be happy to answer those questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. This, where it's continued on, if there's any new proponents, anyone that did not speak at the last meeting and wishes to be a proponent, please step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Thank
Good
you,
evening,
Mr.
Councilor.
Chairman. Ira Novoselsky, 53D Hone Street, Ward 2 City Councilor. Gentlemen, thank you for continuing this from the last meeting on behalf of myself and your board member, Mr. Cronin, for the Jewish holidays and bringing it over to this day. We thank you for that. Just to let you know, I've known Maria for a long time, and I have not heard any complaints from any of the neighbors regarding this as going up. So at this point, I would have no objections to this proceeding. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Anyone wishing to speak in favor if you did not speak at the last hearing?
Hi, I'm Jeannie Martelli.
Did you have to state your name and address for the record?
I'm Jeannie Martelli at 95 Florence Ave. I live right across the street from Christina. I've known her for 18 years. She's done an amazing job at beautifying that whole corner of the neighborhood. And with all the break-ins I've had in my cars, I strongly suggest she get that enclosed so she can have a little bit of, I don't know what the word is, but I'm a little nervous in front of everybody. But yeah, honestly, I only have on-street parking. That's what we have up there. And my Mustang, my Jeep, my truck, I can't tell you how many times I have been broken into and robbed. So I just think it would be...
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Anyone that did not speak last time, if you'd like to step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Anna Wieckiewicz. I am a neighbor of Maria Conlon. I know her for...
Could I have your address, please?
It is 114 Florence Avenue.
Thank you.
And I would like to say that our neighbor is very good one, and she cares about her property very well, and I think she will be doing so even further.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Are there any other proponents? If you could state your name and address for the record.
Jesse Wajkiewicz, 114 Florence Ave, the same like my wife. Yeah, and I would like to join my voice in support of
Okay,
the motion.
thank you very much. Are there any other proponents? Hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? Hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing, and we'll be voting on this at the end of the meeting. Okay, we'll continue on to the next calendar item number.
The next application before the board is application A1216. This is the application of Glenn M. Bucci, 78 Black Duck Road, Pawleys Island, South Carolina, requesting minimum number of and size of parking spaces and driveway regulations to enable the appellant to secure an occupancy permit from the building inspector of the City of Revere for a two-family dwelling on Lot B at 1051 Revere Beach Parkway, Revere. This matter was continued for the meeting of 9/26/12.
Okay, Mr. Cipolletta.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. James Cipolletta, 385 Broadway, Revere, on behalf of Mr. Bucci. As the board heard evidence last month, Mr. Bucci was granted a building permit to construct this home at 1051 Revere Beach Parkway, which he did, and he completed the home. And as a result of some of the topography and the other elements that affect his driveway and the necessity to hold back the hill above, he cut in a parking space to the left of the house, parking area, and he enclosed it with a stone wall. The stone wall encroaches on the amount of space that he has to park cars. So when Mr. Bucci requested a final inspection for a certificate of occupancy for a two-family home, it was pointed out by the building inspector that the parking spaces themselves did not meet the 9x18 requirements, that one of them is insufficient in size. During the last hearing, we entered into the record of the proceedings some photographs showing side-by-side automobiles and so forth, and how automobiles may be appropriately parked. The request of the board further was that there was, for Mr. Bucci to clear up some confusion on the survey plan, which had actually shown a parking space that was on landscaped area. That was a preliminary plan. That was not a reflection of what actually exists at the locus. The updated plan, or the section of the plan that was at issue, was forwarded to the board on 23 October, and it shows the correct dimensions and takes off the parking space that was shown on the landscaped area near the stairway, and that is appropriately now labeled landscaped area. The owner is asking for relief from this board such that it would allow the building inspector to issue a certificate of occupancy. It's ready to be moved into if a site visit has been done, or if any of the members have been by the house, you know that he keeps even though he lives out of state, has been keeping the property up. It's mowed, it's maintained. The stuff that blows in from Revere Beach Parkway is swept away and removed from the property. And I think this speaks volume to the care and the attention that Mr. Bucci pays to the property. My request in the initial variance application was, in accordance with the site plan review letter, a variance of the parking space dimensions to allow one of the spaces to be less than 9 by 18. I also requested any other further relief that the board may see fit to grant to Mr. Bucci, including a variance from the number of parking spaces. So it's an either-or request. One is a request for a variance from the parking space dimensions, or a variance from the number of parking spaces. The Site Plan Review Committee wrote it as parking space dimensions. If the board, we would ask the board to grant that variance. If the board feels disinclined to do that, but feels that it would be more appropriate to grant a variance for the number of parking spaces, that being 3 rather than 4, we would ask the board leave to amend that request and ask for such a variance. But in either way, it would give Mr. Bucci the ability to occupy that house this fall and into the winter months. Any questions of the board, I would be happy to answer them. Questions with regard to Mr. Bucci and his intentions and so forth. He is here from the Carolinas, and he would be happy to answer those. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Seeing that this has been continued, are there any proponents? Hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? Hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. To the clerk, do we have a stamped drawing? I don't show stamped drawings given to us.
Mr. Chairman, we have a drawing submitted on October 23rd, 2012. No evidence of a stamp by an engineer.
And just for the clarification, it's not stamped, the one that we received on the 24th, October 25th, and the one that was initially submitted is not stamped drawing.
I may have a stamped drawing.
Okay, because we can't continue without a stamped drawing, so I would hope that you have one. Or I correct myself, we can't vote on, we need a stamped drawing.
I believe, Mr. Chairman, that the initial drawings that were submitted to the building inspector were stamped. I do have a copy of a stamped drawing here. It's probably the copy of the one that the building inspector has in the file, and I have another one which shows the entire elevation, not just the elevation that was in question that I submitted in October. So if, with the permission of the chair, if I could pass these up through the clerk. I have a stamp on this one. I believe that 2011 one actually does, the house hasn't moved. It's I think the parking area may have been.
On the different drawing, you have a side yard of 5 feet 3 inches. On the one of the drawing, it's 5 feet something else. So the one that was stamped has different dimensions on the right side than what's actually submitted.
If that's the 5.5 on the right side, is that the one that the chairman is referring to?
5.3 on this one, and you have 5.5 on that one, right?
Actually, it appears to be 5.5. I think the controversy is on the left-hand side, though.
Left-hand side, yes, sir.
But I think Mr. Bucci has asked if he could explain the difference in the two drawings. That may hopefully shed more light on it, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, board members, if I could have the 3 drawings I just gave to you so I can explain to them, or I wasn't prepared to give you the drawings. There's 3. This one here, and then the other one, that a complete drawing. I should have brought more. I apologize. The one
I have it.
where's the other one? There's one more. Yes.
Okay, if you just go up to the next one.
This drawing here is revised. At the last meeting, you asked to have clarified, of course, the landscape area was thought was to be a parking area. This is 2 weeks old. Now, this was given to me by the surveyor, but doesn't have a stamp onto it. This is 2 weeks in past tense. The blown-up version of the exact same drawing, because it was hard to recognize it, as you can see, because it's very small in detail. So this was blown up to emphasize the area in question, which is the left-hand side of the driveway. And nothing's changed, of course, but it was just more clarification, a little more blown-up viewing of the area. And the area is basically the offset of the house. We have the width, but this offset is 8 foot wide, and it's 7 square feet less than the city ordinance requires. And I highlighted in yellow, and I just made these copies for myself, mind you. I should have gotten a few more copies a little unprepared. I apologize for that. But the question, I guess, is I have 10-foot setback on the left-hand side. The city requires 9 foot. The retaining wall is 12 inches block, plus the gravel and backfill and drain pipe. There's just not adequately enough space to build the retaining wall and leave 9 foot. It's just a kind of a catch-22, as I'll call it in my terms. And I need your assistance to get a brand new house. It's been sitting for almost 7 months now. I can't move into it. It's totally finished, and it's quite a burden on me personally. I'm hoping for your approval on this. If there's any question I can answer for you, I'd be more than glad to.
There was one of the board members questioned the retaining wall being moved or something in the last meeting. Do you want to elaborate on that?
I had a suggestion of actually trying to get the retaining wall.
You want to put the mic down?
Oh, I had asked about possibly pushing the retaining wall back to 2 feet. I don't know if you had considered that.
I talked to the neighbor next door, Rennie. You know, there's a fence there and there's shrubbery there. And he was quite adamant about, that's his property. And, because technically that fence is where it's supposed to be, within an inch. I double-checked it. And for me to just take his property, I wouldn't want my property being taken, to allow for something to be done for my neighbor per se. Of course, it would ruin those bushes, and there's cost involved and so forth, but the property line is correct where it's at, and you just can't, I don't know, it could be taken down, but again, I comment to my neighbor about possibly doing that same suggestion you mentioned, and he wasn't very willing to give me his land. So, when you asked the question, I did ask him, so, yeah.
Okay, any more questions from the board?
And I can get a copy of a complete survey with a current wet stamp.
If we vote on it, it would have to be a stamped
Yeah,
drawing,
that
so
would be
that
no
would just be
problem at all.
submitted, and it may be submitted already to the building department, but it would have to be confirmed.
I understand.
Okay. Since there's no other comments from the board members, we'll continue on to the next calendar item number.
The next matter before the board is application A1217. This is the application of Dung Ong, 5 Atwood Street, Revere, requesting a rear yard variance to enable the appellant to construct a 12-foot by 18-foot deck in the rear yard on Lot 2 and 3 at 5 Atwood Street, Revere.
My name's Daniel O'Reilly, 707 Winthrop Street, Medford, Mass. I'm the general contractor for Dung Ung. What we're proposing, or what we'd like to do, is to enlarge the deck from what is given to us from the city code right now. Basically, what we could build right now is 8 by 18, and unfortunately wouldn't allow a lot of space if you put a table or chairs to pass by, or have a family dinner on the patio. So just to enlarge it 4 feet to the north, to the rear of the home, just so there'd be a little more space. Right now, I have some photos here that will show the area. Right now, to get to the backyard, we'd have to go through the basement stairs to go to the back, but by putting a deck here also with a set of stairs would facilitate the exit to the back of the home. Also, I think it would embellish the area too, embellish the home, the property, for a future resale, or even, for other neighbors in the area who see a nice deck or patio in the neighborhood. So, that's it.
You know the current zoning for rear setback? It's not on the plans. Who did the plans for you? You shouldn't pay them, because they're supposed to have that listed on the plans, the current zoning and what you're requesting. So they're not doing their job when you're having these made up.
Do you have the plan with the proposed deck?
Yep. Current zoning's supposed to be listed as part of the application, and then you proposed.
Oh,
What's the difference?
Okay, I don't have that one. I'm sorry about that.
I'm trying to... I thought so, but it's just because of the offset of the yard. It's 14.6, so that's why they're coming in for a variance, just because of the yard not being squared off. That would be weird if they cut the deck on an angle. Okay.
It would look weird.
All right, is there any other? 20. So 17. I don't have a problem, but does any members wish to speak on this? I'm going to do proponents. Are there any proponents? Anyone else wish to speak on this? Any opponents? All right, no proponents. Hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. And any opponents? Hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. No members wish to speak, so now we can take on the votes.
Thank you very much.
Before the board is the application of Maria Conlon to enclose, this involves side and front yard setback variances, to enclose the garage carport on Lot 87 at part of 86 Florence Avenue at 9698 Florence. So those are the variances requested. Question comes on the granting the relief requested. Mr. Bacilli? Yes. Yes. Mr. Camerata? No. Mr. Corrin? Yes. Mr. D'Angelo? Yes. Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Colometto is absent. This is granted. The next application before the board is Glenn M. Bucci, requesting a minimum number of parking spaces, minimum size of parking spaces, and the applicant also put down driveway requirements to enable the appellant to secure an occupancy permit from the building inspector for a two-family dwelling on Lot B at 1051 Revere Beach Parkway.
Roll call.
Question comes on granting...
Hold on, we have a question.
Right. The number, as I understand it, there's one space included in the building. So that's number one. Number two is in front of it. And number three is right here. So he really needs 4 spaces for a two-family house. He only has 3. And this one here is not adequate size.
So it would be 8 by 9,
9 by 18.
9 by 18, but it would be like 8 by 18 with the retaining wall?
Right.
And
So-
visually, they do have
And this
cars
is for a
parked
two-family
there.
dwelling.
So
Question
it's more
now.
variance for the width.
Question comes on granting the variance as requested. Mr. Bacilli? Yes. Yes. Mr. Camerata? Yes. Mr. Corrin? Yes. Mr. D'Angelo? Yes. Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Colometto is absent. This variance is granted.
Now we just have 17, right?
17. Excuse me for a second. The next application is A1217, the application of Dung Ong requesting a rear yard setback variance to enable the appellant to construct a 12-foot by 18-foot deck in the rear yard on Lot 2 and 3 at 5 Atwood Street, Revere. Question now comes on granting the relief requested in the variances. Mr. Bacilli? Yes. Mr. Camerata? Yes. Mr. Corrin? Yes. Mr. D'Angelo? Yes. Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Colometto is absent. This is granted.
Having no further business, our next meeting will be on November 28th at 4 p.m. Wish everyone a happy Halloween. The meeting is now adjourned.